भुवः स्वः तत्सवित्रवरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। अस्तो मा सद्गम्य तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गम्य मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गम्य। ओम सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम। मंत्र नंबर 55, पेज नंबर 178 from Rig Veda. Excuse this noise from outside. It's from the lawnmowers. जिस काल अग्नि को श्रम पूर्वक अग्नि की सहायता से उत्पन्न किया जाता था, तो उस काल अग्नि की सर्वत्र एक प्रकार से पूजा होती थी और अग्नि की सर्वत्र मांग थी। अग्नि को कभी बुझने नहीं देते थे। यात्रा में भी अग्नि को किसी न किसी रूप में साथ ले जाया करते थे। जहां पर अग्नि होती वहां से अन्य सभी मांग कर ले जाते। घर में अग्नि आने पर सभी प्रसन्न होते। इस प्रकार अग्नि पूज्य अतिथि के समान जानी जाने लगी। इसीलिए वेद के निम्नलिखित मंत्र में अग्नि को अतिथि की संज्ञा दी गई है। अग्नि ही प्रियो नो अतिथि। ये अग्नि हमारा प्रिय अतिथि है। जिसके घर इंतजार हो वह जब भी आ जाए, स्वागत हो दिल जान से वह अतिथि कहलाए। घर में चूल्हा शांत था, ठिठुर रहे थे लोग। आ कहीं कहीं से आ गई सुंदर भयास योग। अग्नि पूज्य थी सबन की वेदों के उस काल। अरनी से थे उपजती लेते जन संभाल। वेद कहे वह आगना वे तो अतिथि समान। घर में जब थी पहुंचती होता बहु सम्मान। अरनी ने जब आग जलाई मानवता तब थी हर्षाई। अग्नि घर में जब आ जाए लहर खुशी की घर में छाए। The saintly people, they used to carry their own Agni with them. So wherever they'll go, they'll just have a little Kamandal and Agni in there. Okay, let's start our Astavakra Gita today. And we are on chapter number 15. So we're going to finish this chapter. It's a rather long chapter compared to the other chapters. So Astavakra ji is giving advice to us. This chapter is where he gives advice to the senior students. So the students who are, they can easily detach from this world. They are still going through their prarabdha, but they are quite a bit detached. So Vairagya is at a higher level. And in the next chapter, we'll see he is going to give advice to the moderate seekers. The seekers who have not achieved that higher stage yet, but still they are seekers. So in Hindi we say Uttam Varg, Madhyam Varg, right? So it's like a mediocre seekers. So now let's look at number 16. So this is from the chapter where he is giving advice to the topmost students. Where King Janak was. Tav ev agyanataha vishwam tvam ekaha paramartha tvataha anyena asti sansari na asansari cha kasyana. Tav means your, ev means alone, agyanata, through ignorance. Vishwam, universe. Tvam means you, ekaha, one, paramartha, in reality. Tvataha, then you, anya, other. Na means not, asti is. Sansari. Sansari is just like we are. We are the the jeeves which have ego also. So we are going through this. It's like from one existence to the other existence, from one body to the other body. So it's also called individualized soul, sansari. Na means not, asansari, transcendental self. Cha means and, question means any. So Astavakra ji is saying it is through your ignorance alone that the universe appears to exist. In reality, you are the one. Other than you, there is no individual jiva, individual self, or even supreme self. So in other words, there's no distinction. It's only one. And you are part of that one. If we are seeing many over here, he says it's because of your ignorance. This is the avidya. So as long as the mind functions through the ego, it will perceive the world. And we not only perceive the world, we then give a further color to the world. This is bad, this is good, this is my enemy, this is my friend. I like this, I don't like this. We are so much removed from this, the reality. So that's why I was telling you earlier, this whole chapter is for a very higher level of students. So good to know, but in order to, for us to reach there, we need practice. We need to do sadhana. Okay? So he says there is no supreme being, no individual being, no prakriti, it's just one. And you are it. So once we perceive the world of polarity, which we call Jagat, only then we can see, no, this is a Ishwar, this is Paramatma, this is Prakriti, or this is Brahma. So all these distinctions are only to help the individual step by step, stage by stage, as we unfold our reality. So when we talk about that, even in our own self, when we say, yeah, there's a Atma, then there's those different 5 layers, that is to do the practice. Otherwise, there's nothing but self. Yes, for the practice purposes. So in reality, you are the one. Other than you, there is neither an individual ego, the jiva, nor a supreme self, atma. It's almost like if we are sleeping and we are dreaming, and in the dream we see the palace also, we see the lake also, we see the food also, we see the animal also, we see the enemies also. But when we get up, what is there? Only a dream. There's no reality. It was all a dream. The same way, this great Rishi is saying, whatever you see right now, this has come about only because of the ignorance, the avidya. In reality, it's only Brahma. And you are part of that. There's no distinction. Okay? So, there is another beautiful scripture, secondary scripture, which is called Sankshep Sarika. In that one, this Rishi has said, Tav rupam ev tav dukh karam yadi tan pashyasi bahirmukhi. Because of your extrovertedness, if you are not able to recognize your own self, then the equipments that constitute your form indeed becomes a painful calamity. dukh karam. And then in the next line he says, Tav rupamev tap tripti karam yadi tat prapashyasi nirvatte tama. When this ignorance is removed and you realize the self, this very same form of yours, made up of your equipments, becomes completely satisfactory. And what are the equipments? The equipments are the body, the mind, the intellect, the ego. Those are the equipments. When we don't know who we are, we suffer because of them. When we know exactly what the reality is, suffering goes away. Because we know we are not that. It could be an aching body, but we know it's not. I'm not the body. See, just like a house we live in, if we identify with the house, then there's a suffering. Somebody else got a better house than I do. Or my house is leaking. But when the realization dawns that I'm not the house, it's just the equipment which I have for a short period of time, then there's no suffering. You take care of it, but there's no suffering because you're not identifying with that equipment anymore. So that's why these great rishis, they are just bringing our attention towards that. Okay? So extrovertedness. Then in next verse he says, Pranti matram idam vishwam na kinchit iti nischay nirvasana sapurti matra na kinchit iv shamyati Bhranti matram, mere illusion. Idam means this, Vishwam universe, na kinchit, not anything. Iti means thus, Nishchay. We know this word from the previous chapters also. He has used this Nishchay word again and again. That means a person who understands with certainty. See, a lot of things we know with certainty, a lot of things we don't know with certainty. We just know it vaguely. Over here, he says, with the certainty a person knows, nirvasana, desireless. Vasana means the subtle desires. Safurti matraha, intelligence itself. Na kinchit, not anything. Iv means as if. Shamyati finds serenity. One who understands with certainty that this universe is but an illusion and is nothing. Nothing means it's not permanent. It's an illusion. It's going to change. It can change any time. So one who understands with certitude that this universe is but an illusion and is nothing, what happens to that person? Becomes desireless. And what happens? Intelligence becomes pure. There's a purity in the intellect also. Another thing, finds a serenity. As if nothing exists. So if we have to check ourselves, we are practicing at different levels. We've been studying also. We've been helping others also. Do we have this in our inner personality or not? The worldly desires, are they less than last year or not? Don't compare your desires with other people. That somebody else has more than I do. Just look at your own. Over here, journey is just our own journey. Not even our brothers, sisters, or our spouses, or our children, or our friends, nobody else. This journey is our own journey. Are our worldly desires reducing or not? If they are keep on increasing, then we are going towards the wrong direction. Then he says, pure intelligence. Pure intelligence. In Gita, we learn about the pure intelligences when we see the sameness, when we feel the unity. Can you close these windows? A lot of noise. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, that one, maybe leave it open. Close this one. Behind me, I think a lot of noise comes from there. Okay, so pure intelligence, according to Gita, is when we see the unity in diversity. Because this discrimination happens with the help of the intellect. So when we have that kind of an intellect, when we see sameness, whatever we study, it has taken a little housing in our intellect. So he says pure intelligence and finds serenity. Are we more and more serene or not? That doesn't mean that in the outer world everything will be perfect. No, there could be a big calamity outside, but internally, is there a peace or not? So if there's a more and more peace, fewer and fewer desires, then that means we are improving. We are moving towards the right direction. So this is through our own direct experience. Okay, when he talks about certitude, nishchay, that means your own experience. That everything else is a delusion. Self alone is the reality. So when this kind of experience comes, how can a person like this desire anything? That doesn't mean that the person will not eat, will not wear clothes, will not have relationships, but what is inside? Desires are always, they exist inside our mind. And those desires, what do they do actually? They disturb our mind. Desires are the one which disturb our mind. It's not the outer world of the objects which disturb us. It is the desires in the inner world of us. So a man of perfection lives in this world, the world which is very familiar to us, the world of very enchanting objects also. But wise man looks at these objects in the world just mere physical equipments. So he doesn't recognize. King Janak, he had the palaces, he had the wealth, but inside he was desireless. So he recognized them, but they did not affect him. Okay? So this is where we need to go. This is where with our sadhana we should look at it. Where are we? Check ourselves. Then in number 18 he says, Ekaha ev bhav ambhudyo asit asti bhavishyati na te bandha asti mokshaha va krit kritya sukham char. Eka means one, ev means only. Bhav ambhudyo, in the ocean of the existence. Asit was, asti is, bhavishyati will be. Was, is, will be. Past, present, future. Na means not, te means here, bandha, bondage. Asti is moksha, liberation. Va means or, krit krityaha, fulfilled. Sukham char. Sukham is happy. Char means roam about. In the ocean of existence, the one self only was, is, and will be. So the permanency of this is only the self. Was, is, and will be. There is neither bondage nor liberation for you. Live fulfilled and roam about happily. So this is the truth. So all those names and the forms, they look very different to us. And sometimes we get happy having them. Sometimes we feel threatened by them. He says, there's no existence. There's no reality. It's all your delusion. The only real thing is that you exist and you were there before and you'll be there in the future also. Okay? So existence is a common factor in you, me, and he. That existence which we talk about, the reality in all of us, that's what stays always. Okay, so the difference, what we see, the difference in us, that is temporary. That is not the reality. Even existence in a stone, existence in a flower, existence in animal, existence in plant, existence in star, existence in sun, or even existence in moon, it's the same. That reality is the same in all of us. But that we don't pay attention to the real thing and we just pay more attention to the fluff. Okay, so one existence, that's why it's called Sat also. So Sat, in which things exist. So this existence is the expression of the infinite reality behind the names and the forms. So then in that sense he says, it was, it is, and it will be. There's no change in it. And then what can then bind you? From what to liberate from? Otherwise, we are saying that we bound ourselves with ourselves. There's nothing to bind actually. It's so temporary. So bondage and liberation both have no meaning for this level of understanding. A person who has found that in reality the oneness with the self. And he says, he's recommending, he says, once you have this kind of understanding, roam about happily, live happily, live happily. Ma sankalap vikalap abhyam chitam kshobhye chinme upashamye sukham tishta swa atmani anand vigraha. Ma means not. Sankalap vikalpa abhyam, by affirming and negating. Chitam, the chit, kshobhya, disturb. Chinme, chinme word is for the pure intelligence. Chinme. Upashamye, Silencing, sukham happily, tisht abide, swa atmani in yourself, in your own self, ananda vigrahe in the embodiment of bliss. O pure intelligence, don't disturb your mind by affirming and negating the things. Sankalpa and vikalpa. Silencing them. Abide happily in your own self, which is an embodiment of the bliss absolute. And what is the bliss absolute? The Atma, the real thing in you, part of that Brahm. So there's nothing for you to affirm, and there's nothing for you to negate. Because when we just keep on doing this sankalp and vikalp, what happens? There's a lot of churning in your mind. He says, be still, be silent. Okay? You are a divine spirit. You are a mass of bliss. Chinmay, Anand Vigrah. These are the great Sanskrit terms he's using for our real self. None of the disturbances in the world can rise to shatter our light of consciousness. We forget ourselves, and that's why we feel shattered. We feel disturbed. And that's why earlier we learned this verse of Yog Vashishta, Mam idam iti bandhaye na aham ityev mukte. The idea of this mine takes you to bondage. Mine, this is mine. My body, my children, my house, my wealth. So the idea of this mine takes you to bondage. The idea I'm not leads you to liberation. This is what bondage is, which is in your own hands. Why feel you are in ignorance? There is nothing for you to affirm or negate. He says, end this agitation. Etav matrakehe vastu anye atmyatehe kimugyata. He says, end this agitation. So you are the self. If you cannot do this or have this kind of a realization 24/7, at least during our meditation. So when you're sitting in our meditation, on our meditation seat, just focus only on the Atma, nothing else. Don't think that after meditation, your blood pressure will become better, or you'll be a better meditator than others. All you are doing is just practicing knowing yourself. That's all. Because we have forgotten who we are. We have kept affirming that I am this, I am that. So few minutes a day at least, we can live like this and see whether our desires are going down or not, worldly desires. Our attachment to all this is going down or not. Is there a more peace inside us or not? That's what we have to look at. This is what the sadhana is. Okay. So, ma sankalp vikalpa abhyam chittam kshomye chinmye upashamye sukham tishta so atmani anand vigrah. The last verse of this chapter, tyaj eva dhyanam sarvatra ma kinchit hridhi dharya atma tvam muktaha eva asi kim vimrishya karishyasi. When a person has reached to that state, not just sitting down meditation, a practitioner is meditating all the time. Sitting down meditation has become a very active meditation. Body is actively involved in the world, but you are still constantly connected with the self. That identification with the real never ever gets disturbed. From that point of view, he is saying this. That's why I told you earlier that this chapter is for the advanced students. So don't think that when he says that don't meditate, it's for us now, that, oh, I'm not going to meditate because Rishi Astavakra said that. No, this is not for us. But still, it's good to know where we are going. Tyaj means give up. Ev means even. Dhyanam, contemplation. Sarvatra, in every way. Ma means not. Kinchit, anything. Hridaya, in the mind. Dharye, hold. Atma, self. Tvam means you. Muktaha, free. Ev means indeed. Asi, are. Kim, what. Vimrishya, thinking. Karishya, see, will do. Completely give up even contemplation or dhyan. And hold nothing in your mind. You are indeed the self, ever free. What will you do by meditation? Because meditation is a technique, it's an exercise to take you to that level. So once we have reached there, he says, you don't need it. It's almost like a ladder. You need the ladder to go up on the roof. But once you're already on the roof, you don't need the ladder. If you still just hung on to the ladder, you don't enjoy the scenery from up there. So in that sense, he is saying, so to one who has slept, there can never be no more any attempt to sleep. Because meditation is an attempt to know yourself. So if I'm already sleeping, I'm not going to get up and just check whether I'm trying to sleep or not. I'm already sleeping. So if I know myself, know who I am, and I can abide in that reality. So from that point of view, he's saying it. So once you have realized that you are indeed the self, ever free to think, to contemplate, or to meditate upon the nature of the self, you know what will happen? You are recrystallizing your ego. That's what he's saying. And you might disturb yourself with the flutterings of your mind. Okay? So in that sense, he says, give up meditation. Give up meditation to that student. There's no greater meditation than the meditation-less meditation. Otherwise, it's just a process. When you're already in there, then there's no need to do any process. Okay? So it is like an infinite fulfillment. That's where your practice ends. The dream of the ego has rolled away for this kind of a person. The self as the self revels in the self. That's what Lord Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita. The meditator has become the meditated. In other words, the man has stepped onto the throne of God. Oneness is there, the union is there. Yoga ends there. Okay? So Yoga Vashishtha also says, Anantatavat anantastha bhrantir na asti cha samprati abhyas bhrantir akhilam mahachid ghan akshatam. Self being infinite, delusion in it is impossible. So there's no delusion in the self. Delusion is only in the Prakriti. So self being infinite, anantatvat anantastha. Sadhana to realize the changeless mass of consciousness is indeed a delusion only. So this is a very high level of achievement by a yogi. Okay, so we are moving towards that. That is our goal. But that's why I said it earlier. Don't stop in between. If you're climbing up and you think that you have reached up there, but you are only in a first or second step on the ladder, and you let go your hands, then what will happen? Fall on your face. But when you have climbed all the way up and you have reached there, then it's a different story. Okay. Before we start the next chapter, we can definitely take a little break. If anybody has a question, I can answer that pertaining to this chapter. But if you don't, then we'll continue with the chapter 16. So if you have a question, then you can ask.
Hershey, I have a question.
So,
Yeah, Tripat, Jessie asked first. Let's see. Jessie.
no, it's okay. Don't worry. Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't understand it, but I think you said desires in our inner world disturb us. The outside world is near.
Jessie, which verse you are looking at?
I just wrote it on the notes.
Okay.
And you said the outside objects are mere physical equipment.
Yes.
So now I personally don't have issues with somebody having a certain car and me not. I don't make those comparisons of the physical equipment, but I still have disturbances inside of me.
Yeah.
But they're not because of the physical. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Where's the connection, Hershey, to
see
about the inner world disturbs us?
Yeah. Whenever there is a disturbance inside us, it is always because of non-self. It doesn't have to be the physical part of the equipments. It could be the subtler than that. It could be our ideas or the relationships or why somebody said something to us. So they all fall in the category of objects.
Okay.
Objects, they don't have to be only physical. They can be non-physical also.
Non-physical.
Anything which disturbs us. Anything. So disturbance, no matter what kind of a disturbance comes in my mind, I am responsible for it. Okay, we got to take ownership of that. That my mind, I am supposed to quieten it. My intellect. So that's why I said these are equipments. I own in this particular journey, these equipments, I need to keep them clean and I need to keep them in my control. Got it? Whether it's a body or whether it's a mind. And in the mind, sometimes physical, sometimes non-physical.
Thank you. That makes it.
Yes, I always give my students this example. I mean, now we are older, but when we were a little younger, parties were there and a beautiful wife, all dressed up. There is a dinner party happening at home. Everything is fine. Food is perfect. House is perfect. She looks elegant. Husband is good. They have a good relationship. But from the corner of her eye, she sees her husband talking to another woman. Disturbance. Right?
Now this makes sense. Yeah. Thank you.
So it's not an object, it is anything. Anything. We don't want anything become so big and powerful that our mind, which we are trying to keep quiet, becomes turbulent.
It's very hard, Hershey, but I'm trying.
It is definitely hard. That's why we got to start from the gross things first, and then the subtle, then the subtlest. Okay? So work on
Thank
the
you.
growth. Just like if I need to control a block of ice, I can control it.
Mm.
Like block of ice, if I put it somewhere, it will stay there. Once it becomes a liquid water, it will definitely flow hard to control. When it becomes
Correct.
vapors, it's even harder to control,
Mm.
right? So that's how it happens. Our body, our thoughts, our conduct, our emotions, those are very subtle. So we need to work
Definitely.
on it.
Thank you.
And we never want to give somebody else the power for our mind. It's
Right.
my mind. Right now for this journey, my equipment. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, good question though. Just a very good question, because I'm sure all of us struggle with this. All of us.
You know, I'm not materialistic.
Yeah.
Those things have never, but I have so many disturbances. And this morning, my husband said to me, "You're answering me very oka all the time." So obviously, there's something inside of me that's
Yeah.
not related to
Definitely.
the outward world that's still disturbing me.
Yeah. Disturbing.
And
That's
you
what
just
we
made
need
it
to.
very clear.
Yeah, you need to get it out. Yes, Tripat, you have a question?
Hershey, मैंने पूछना था, so when you are in this state of liberation and you are one with everything, तो तुरिया में क्या होता है फिर when this person sleeps, let's say, तो हम कहते हैं ना कि an ignorant person doesn't realize what is deep sleep, and then when they get up they are back in the world. तो इस जो ये इतना liberated होता है, he is aware, right, even in that sleep, in the deep sleep, ki what is happening?
Yes, yes. First of all, when I reach there, I'll let you know. But right now, I can tell you a little bit what I have heard from my Guruji's mouth, or wherever I got this information. You remember the Yoga Nidra?
Yes.
So this kind of a yogi, while he is sleeping, he is meditating. And the regular sleep which we go through, even that he needs only a little portion of it. But in his sleep also, all he does is meditating. You know what I have seen my Guruji doing? He slept very little, but he always kept a little notepad and a pencil on the side table, right next to his bed. And I witnessed that sometimes he'll get up, he'll be up at night, right away he'll start writing. That means there was some kind of a
Revelation,
something. That's why he could write so much in his lifetime, took care of so many other things and wrote so many books. And even in his last breath, he was on the bed and we were there watching. You know what he did? He is saying some mantras, and he's just with his finger writing in the air. So there was some kind of a revelation at that time also. And one of the sentence I remember, because I was right there, my sister was there too. He said, "Jo yahan hai, wahi wahan hai."
wow.
Those were his words. So that means he could see the entire universe at that time. So yahan hai, wo wahan hai. And later on, I remember after I came back, it was 2012. I came back and studied one of the Upanishads, and exact mantras I read in the Upanishads also. So he was really seeing it, witnessing it. So that's how they sleep, Tripat.
Very.
Okay? Yeah. They don't see, our sleep is tamasic. That's why even after 7-8 hours of sleep, first of all, we don't want to get up. When we get up, we are still just rubbing our eyes. That's a tamasic sleep. In this kind of a person, they are just up and going. almost like a spring under them. They bounce up, and then when we get up, what do? They do the seva. Okay. So there's another question, looks like.
Raj Mittal,
Yes, Raj.
you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry. Hersh, sorry to ask you to repeat. आखिरी वाला जो अभी आपने पढ़ा था from Yog Vashisht. If
Yes.
you can please
Yes,
just.
definitely. Yes. This verse is, he is really roaring the same naked truth, if I can say. Okay, there's no coloring about this. He says, Anant Tvat, Anant Satha, Bhrantir na asti cha samprati. Abhyas Bhrantir akhilam mahachit ghanam akshatam. So in English it says, self being infinite. Delusion in it is impossible. Sadhana to realize the changeless mass of consciousness is indeed a delusion only.
Oh,
Okay?
okay.
So in that sense, he's saying, see, right now, sure, it's very nice to read here, but we need to really be in that kind of a state of mind to comprehend it completely. But I'm glad that you guys are enjoying it. I'm enjoying reading it, relaying this to you, because it gives us a hope also. It gives us a little push to do sadhana at a better level too, right? I'm sure you'll all agree. Yes, there's another question.
Can you repeat it, Hersh, one time? The English part.
Yes, self being infinite. So that
Right.
means the soul is infinite.
Right.
In everybody,
Okay.
not just in the Guruji, in all of us also, soul is infinite. Delusion in it is impossible.
Impossible. Yes.
Okay, so self being infinite, delusion in it is impossible. So where is the delusion then? In the mind, not in the self. Okay, so self being infinite, delusion in it is impossible. Sadhana to realize the changeless mass of consciousness is indeed a delusion only.
Okay.
Okay, got it?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, another question.
Pramila,
Yes.
Actually, mine was the same question. I wanted to write that Yoga
Yes.
Vishesh quotation.
Yes.
And today I finish one big fat book and I start the second one.
Good, good.
ये notes हैं
Excellent.
आपके. Starting
Excellent.
from January to
Pramila?
2020 to August 6th. Everything is here.
You guys are great students, I tell you
And
that.
now I bought the same colored book. Right.
Okay, all right. So in a layman's term, the meaning of this verse is the sadhana is always at the level of equipment. That's why yoga is for the body, yoga is for the mind, yoga is for the intellect, yoga is for the ego. Yoga is not for the soul. Sometimes we hear those words, yoga is for mind, body, and soul. No, soul doesn't need yoga. There can never be any change in soul. That is infinite. There's no sadhana for it. Remember that. That's what this Guru Vashisht is. He's just speaking out these kind of verses so loudly, so clearly. So we got to understand it properly. Yes, another question.
Pramila had one, I think.
Pramila?
No? Okay.
No.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just look at the introduction of the next chapter, and then we'll start the next chapter next week. So next chapter is chapter 16. And again, Rishi Astavakra is giving us the instructions. Instructions which are very profitable for the students of a little lesser order. Lesser order means have not reached the samadhi yet. Maybe a glimpse here and there, but abidance in that turiya avastha is not there yet. So this student is striving to come out of the delusion, definitely practicing. So that's why we will see some special instructions and some very reliable tips also for us. Okay. See what really cheats us on this path. I mean, we study about it, we practice also, we believe in it also, but then we feel cheated here and there. We got to look at it. See, just like Jassi was saying, not much attachment to the objects, but still little disturbance. That's what we need to think about now. When I get disturbed, why do I get disturbed? Because disturbance is not in the Atma, but still I get disturbed. Why? This is almost like a tragedy in the life of a seeker. Working hard, staying away from this world, but still not reaching where we need to reach. That's why I would say it's a tragedy. So in this chapter, Rishi Astavakra is going to give us a very satisfactory explanations. He will provide us with some very effective tips to correct our ways, to avoid the pitfalls in the path, and make a very pleasant dash to our spiritual goal. But again, we got to do the sadhana. He's not going to do a sadhana for us. Guru can only give us the tips. So the instructions which we'll find in this chapter through these verses are very precious tips. Very precious for a serious seeker. A seeker who's struggling in the higher levels of meditation. Lower meditation the person can do. Enjoying it too. Because that's the only reason a person keeps on meditating every day at the same time with the same enthusiasm. But still little disturbance here and there. Why? So that's what we'll find in this chapter. So just see, you will see that there will be a lot of great hints in this chapter. And not only you, there are a lot of other students, I'm sure they are struggling too.
No, I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah. Okay. So this chapter is most effective for those students who jerk themselves in their ego. Like it or not, it's the ego which is really creating the disturbance. In the highest moments of our meditation, all by itself, there's a jerk. That's the ego. Because ego is so subtle. Body is fine, but ego just gets disturbed. So this is what we need to work on. Okay, let's stop it here, and you will see that how beautifully this great Rishi is going to guide us with the beautiful terms. Language is very simple of this scripture, as you have seen it already. We are all familiar with this level of Sanskrit. Very simple. But the points he is making, they are very subtle. And we need to, first, we are reading it, understanding it, but ultimately we have to practice it. And I'm sure all of you are practicing meditation every day. Every day we should do that. Every day we should wash our body, outside, inside, as a yoga student, so that we don't become sick. You've learned how to do neti, you've learned how to do pranayam. Keep on doing it. See, with the pranayam also, you're washing yourself. Then do your duties properly. Then there's no agitation. If I'm supposed to cook for my family, I should cook for my family without creating any disturbance. At the right time, the right food. It's a duty. If I'm supposed to do the laundry, do the laundry without any kind of a disturbance inside there. Whatever your duties are, do those without creating any disturbance. Outer disturbance, definitely not, but no inner disturbance either. Only then we'll be able to pray and meditate the way we are supposed to. Okay, this is the sadhana. Sadhana, first we have to understand it, and doing the sadhana properly is very important to climb up to the ladder where these great rishis are taking us to. Okay, so now let's do a little meditation with the help of the chanting, Manny.
जी, हर्ष जी, मैं दो लाइनें गा सकती हूँ?
Okay, all right, Kamala. Instead of chanting, then let's just have Kamala's singing and meditate with that. And then after that, if anybody has a question, I'm here to answer.
Thank you. रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम। रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम। सीताराम सीताराम भज प्यारे तू सीताराम। सीताराम सीताराम भज प्यारे तू सीताराम। रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम। ईश्वर अल्लाह तेरे नाम सबको सन्मति दे भगवान। जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम जानकी वल्लभ सीताराम। मैं रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम। ईश्वर अल्लाह तेरे नाम सबको सन्मति दे भगवान। ईश्वर अल्लाह तेरे नाम सबको सन्मति दे भगवान। जय रघुनंदन जय सिया राम जानकी वल्लभ सीताराम। रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम। रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम।
Beautiful, Kamala. Very nice.